Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Campbell Talk. And I'm a little bit hoarse tonight, but we will make it through this conversation tonight. So get ready, get ready, get ready to invite your friends and family and everyone to join us as we have this conversation about HIV in the Black community. And tonight we have Miss Cordella Lyons out of Texas, who will be joining us on this live, and we're going to be diving into these issues. And if you notice, we brought you some really great folks already from Atlanta, from Jacksonville, and there's no exceptions, right? We're just going to be great all year because we need to take care of us. We need to help us to be stronger. We need to make sure that we get the services that we need. And I have to bring you good, qualified people who know what they're talking about. So get your folks, invite them to come, sit, watch. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will love to answer them live on air. And if we don't get a chance to, we will definitely answer them after. So we will be right back, and I look forward to having you. Hi, Cardella. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for agreeing to be with us today and for us to have a live conversation.
The pleasure is all mine. I am thrilled to be in this space and I am looking forward to having a very engaging conversation with you.
Awesome. All right. So tell us about yourself.
Oh, that's the toughest question ever, but the bare bits. I'm from St. Anne, Jamaica. I migrated to the US about 33 years ago, and I am a registered nurse. My bachelor's is in healthcare administration, and my master's in emergency management and homeland security. I've been in the field for about 25 years, and the last 12 I've been focusing on HIV and STIs. So, bare bones.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're just going to jump right in, right? Because that's what we do here. We jump right in. So, what do you think is happening with the Black community as far as HIV in this country?
Well, I think there has been so much going on that the Black community has gotten lost in the messaging, gotten lost in the care, gotten lost in data. And one of the important things that I think, and we can relate to as recently as COVID, quite often we look at aggregate data, right? Okay, 12 people died from COVID. Well, I think we need to get back even with the HIV space and the broader public health arena and look at disaggregated data. Who are these 12 people? Where are they from? Where do they work? Do they have insurance? What is their living condition like? To drill down because we've gotten lost in that big number.
Mhm.
And that has been a huge problem for us. Another piece of it is the way the messaging is conveyed. Sometimes, you yourself may hear people say, is HIV still a thing? Well, yes, it is. it's a chronic condition, right? And people are being diagnosed daily. So that is what has happened, I think, with the Black community. We've just pretty much gotten lost in all the chaos.
And people, I hear people say Magic Johnson is cured, right?
Mhm.
And even though Magic Johnson says I'm living with HIV, people still kind of like have the site because they think he has money, he can get these specialized doctors. Well, really and truly, he takes the same medication today that is recommended for everybody. So he doesn't have special medication.
But that is correct. And I was in the audience in Las Vegas a few years ago when Magic Johnson shared those very words with us. He says, I take my medications every day, I exercise, and I eat right. And so we go back to some of that messaging. We see people living longer and healthier, which is a fantastic thing. And
Mhm.
we see, people are still able to have the quality of life, go to work, have families, and continue with their regular day. So it's gotten lost somehow, sort of watered down into us believing it's no longer a thing. And sadly for the Black community, we just cannot afford to uh, press pause. We have to keep going, and we have to address HIV so much as just a regular part of what we're doing every day, not because of pretty much connecting HIV to ourselves so much, but making sure we have that awareness.
Mhm.
When we talk about sexual health, when we talk about regular health, interacting with family members, we need to make sure that we have that awareness with everything that we do.
Okay. So so keeping on that same topic, how can Black and Indigenous people of color address HIV from an individual or family perspective?
Individually, I think we owe it to ourselves uh, to get the education. What is HIV? How is it acquired? And a lot of everything, it starts with the basics, right? Education. It doesn't have to be that tertiary level education, but what education will help us do too is to demystify and undo a lot of stigma and the wrong information that's out there, right? So we get the information from as early as possible. What is HIV? How is it acquired? How is it treated? So we are armed with that. The next thing is advocacy. And I've come to believe that no one's coming to save us. So we pretty much have to save ourselves. And a big part of it is knowing that when we access healthcare, we are saying to our providers, could you please include my HIV screen? I mean, in 2006, CDC recommended routine HIV screening for 13 and older in healthcare, and very few people were screened routinely in healthcare. At the same time, we are accessing healthcare. Many of us are living with chronic conditions, and we're probably going in once every 3 months, or so, and we're getting blood drawn if we're living with diabetes, right? But that HIV screen is missing. So the data says 85% of us would agree to be screened if the provider offered it. Well, let's flip it. Let's ask the provider, please include my HIV screen. All right, there is no reason why a young woman going in or to the doctor, say for birth control, right?
Right.
If you're thinking of birth control, you're thinking about not getting pregnant. You're not thinking about STIs. So let's talk about, I need to, include your screen. Or young men, healthy young men, seemingly healthy, going to the doctor. Let's have the conversation about HIV and STIs. You're concerned about that young man's thyroid. You're concerned about everything and his blood pressure. Well, he's a sexual being. Let's talk about those issues and make it easier for individuals to get screened. Now, when it comes to family, a lot of us are so connected, and it's human nature. We're connected to our family members. One of the big things I see with families is how we have discussions about sexual health. It does not have to be anything that's lewd, because sexual health is a part of us. But being positive in addressing issues as we talk about puberty, as we talk about gender and sexual identity, just being so positive in ensuring that we have a safe space in our homes where our loved ones can talk about their sexual health, and having that will help us to know that, okay, it's okay to get an HIV screen, right?
Right.
It's okay. And it is okay also to follow up after that screen. If you're negative, you probably PrEP is for you,
Right.
right? If you're positive, oh, there is treatment, right? So making sure we have those healthy um, places in our homes when we get together for Sunday dinner or Thanksgiving. That person sitting at the table is probably wanting to say something,
Yeah.
but maybe they've heard us talk negatively about HIV or gender and sexual identity. So they may not show up for dinner because they don't want to hear it, or they may just stay quiet and suffer in silence. So we have that ability as family members to be safe, to be non-judgmental, and to speak about sex in a positive manner.
Absolutely. And it creates stigma. And
Yeah.
so when people, there are different levels to stigma. There's individual, there's community, there's organizational.
Mhm.
So when we talk about and we think about how sometimes someone in your family can say certain things about a particular group or about a person, and we walk away with this idea in our head, stigmatizing other people and not even realizing that that's something that we picked up right from somebody else who's also stigmatizing that same
Exactly.
community. And so it's like how do we begin to address HIV stigma in the Black community?
Oh my. So here we are. Here we are. And sadly, the stigma, came with HIV in the 40s, 40 years ago, because we first stigmatized gay men, right? And then we pretty much allowed it to cause people to stay out of care. We allowed it to um, cause our loved ones to lose their lives because we got so entrenched
Mhm.
in believing the myth and thinking that it is okay to pretty much alienate others because of what we think they are or what they deserve. As that was one of the most stupid thing we ever heard, that somebody deserves to have a chronic illness, right? But it has we've come so far now that I think we should move forward in a positive way after seeing how many people died in silence, or are still probably living in silence, right? Move forward in a positive way to say, let us learn, let us understand what we're dealing with. Let us lead with science and lead with good information, right? And be accepting and tolerant of other individuals. I don't think there's anywhere where if we tolerate someone, we are going to be like them. It's not it no. Everybody has a right to choose how they want to live, and I think we need to be able to find acceptance and tolerance, and be positive in how we approach people.
That is absolutely true. And that's also problematic because I still hear stories of people um, bleaching down the showers after someone, a family member who's living with HIV, has taken a shower. And they don't even think about the mental health of that person and how that can affect your psyche. So it's super, it hurts my heart to even hear those stories. And also people being kicked out of their homes, people being kicked out of their families. I had a friend many years ago whose parents were super religious, and he was sexually assaulted and left in the subway station.
Mm.
And he got tested, found out he was living with HIV. And when he tried to tell his parents, they disowned him. And then they tried to use his status to say it was because you're gay, why, God is punishing you. And eventually, along the line, he ended up committing suicide.
Wow.
So sometimes, it's a little bit, then, the parents are crying over it afterwards, right? So it's like you put your child through all this stuff and then you cry about it in the end. And so that's how stigma sometimes can impact people's mental health.
Oh yeah.
It can disrupt their idea of who they are as a person. It can disrupt their idea of who they are as part of their community. And we end up ostracizing people. And so we have to really be careful in our families and with our friends and with our neighbors, and be careful about the things we say and how we say them, because it can have those impacts. And
Most definitely. And a lot of times, we're just not mindful. You're in a group and thinking it is funny, and not understanding that person probably has a loved one, or they themselves are going through some of those, have some of those concerns. But then, and the ironic thing is, they're probably looking up to us, right? They're probably thinking that we're their safe space, but then they hear us with that language and realize, oh my goodness, I have no acceptance here either, right? So it then pushes them away, pushes people away, not wanting to enter care. I mean, even in healthcare, there are many people who are healthcare providers who will say, well, none of my patients are living with HIV, but that provider hasn't tested any of their patients. It's pretty much, not wanting to address HIV. And then it prevents people from accessing care because they feel that they're going to be stigmatized when they show up for care. It is so it's up to us to educate ourselves. It's up to us to retrain our minds and our tongues to speak positively and to be accepting. Because if we lead with love, and it may seem cliche, just lead with love. I mean, in thinking that we don't know what others are going through, and they are looking to us for leadership. They're looking to us for safety. They're looking to us for guidance. So it is imperative that we stay true, and we make sure that they have the safe space to access care and to get tested.
absolutely. And stop kicking your young people out.
Yes,
Kick
yes,
your
yes.
people out. It's people are who they are. You're never going to be become, you can't become gay if you're not. Like, you're not just going to pick it up by osmosis. Like, like someone's not going to touch you and you're like, oh my god. Like, the very same way that someone can't, I can't as a Jamaican go and touch somebody and they become a Jamaican. That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
You're Jamaican, you're Jamaican, you're Jamaican. No, it doesn't work that way. So we
One of
have
my
to.
one of my great friends, Miss Kathy Wingate, she says, "Love your children for who they are, not for who you want them to be."
I know
And
that's the problem.
that's it. I mean, none of us, I mean, we are who we are, and we expect people to love us for who we are, not who they want us to be. We're all different. We like different things. We express ourselves differently, but we are expecting people to love and accept us just as we are. So, why is it so difficult to do it for our children?
Right. Especially after we've spent so much time in our adult years trying to figure out who we are.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
We spend all these years trying to figure out who we are. Then we have kids, and then we're trying to make them who we are. I,
Right, right.
it's
And our
crazy.
children are looking to us. We are the first source of protection they know,
Right.
right? So if they can't find safety with us, where are they going to find it?
And it's going to help them in the long run because when you kick them out, then they're going to be preyed upon.
Yes.
And then they're going to end up, some of them end up with STDs and HIV. Some of them end up being trafficked. Some
Right.
of them end up being homeless. They're couch surfing. There's so many other problems that you've created just from a level of just, I don't know, it's a level, I would say a level of ignorance, but a
Yeah.
level of not knowing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so we have to kind of like really evaluate and say, I don't know, have you seen, I don't know if you got a chance to see the NAACP awards.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade was there.
Okay.
And Dwayne Wade was talking about his daughter and saying, you know, you've teach me how to be a dad to you because you've teach me how to see you through my to see you and to listen and not to just communicate with my words but to communicate with by listening and
Mhm.
hearing what you're saying. And I think sometimes we have to do that because people oftentimes let these societal things get into their brains and they're doing it for what they think people in the community is
Yeah.
going to say or think or do, and it's none of their business.
No.
You have a family, take care of your family, support your family, always want the best for your family, and that's how we start. That's part of how.
That's it. That's where we start. And as a Black community, we cannot afford to do that to our children because we're taking away their opportunity for academic advancement,
Mm,
which transitions into the opportunity for financial advancement.
absolutely,
So it is not more of us will be incarcerated, right? Because if it's either for stealing, drug use, sex work, right? So then the cycle continues. So we honestly have no room for that arrow. And if our children are at home, we know they have a better chance of going to school, learning a trade, or somehow, getting to financial independence, which is what we want, and staying healthy, following up with their medical exams, regardless of what ails them, right? And,
yep,
and giving them the opportunity also for better mental health. That's what we want. We cannot afford, we don't have a chance right now. And as I said, nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, right?
absolutely, we
And
must.
we must. And that means keeping our families, no matter what they look like,
Yep,
as wholesome as possible.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it was the black attorney general, the guy who's always at every all of the injustices that have been happening in America.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name right now. But he also was on the NAACP award yesterday, and he was like, "We have to fight for our justice and our rights, and we have to fight for us until hell freezes over. And then when hell freezes over, you better be prepared to fight on the ice."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it shows
Definitely.
you, like, we come from a people who were stolen
Yes.
and traded and bartered and given away as properties,
Mhm.
and we're here. And so now we have to keep pushing. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep doing it until we get to a place where we are truly free, where we truly have our freedom, truly have our rights to do the things that we need to do.
That's right. History is written by the victors. And we have to understand that our foreparents, they went through a lot. And somehow we managed to get here. The race isn't over, the fight isn't over, but we cannot give up. We cannot give in. And we have to make it better for our children. And this is, I mean, we not may not be on the plantations, we may not, have been on the boat, but the fight that we have now must be so solid that we can make sure our children and our future is going to look bright. One of the things I heard the other day, the AIDS quilt, that was started in San Francisco many years ago after Harvey Milk died. It is one of the biggest pieces of art in the world, right? And a very small part of it has people who died, Blacks who died from HIV. Now, the Southern AIDS Coalition, they have a project going about, getting more people to put a patch on the quilt. And I would love for the Black community to even think about their loved ones who died in silence or pretty much maybe died from shame, to say, I can do that in their honor, right? And then we can start with this whole positive conversation, right? And remember them in thinking the good things and sharing the good stories about them, so they didn't just die, like they never existed. And then moving on from there to say, you're going to break the cycle. You're going to be around to write history, right? We're going to be here to write it because the victors write history. We're going to be here. We're going to make sure we tell our own story. And just trying to do things like that in how we talk to our children, how we lead at church, how we lead at work, how we lead at school, in any space that we get the privilege to step into, that we're going to make sure we do it right, because we cannot afford to lose anybody else.
Absolutely. We need everybody, and we need you guys to register to vote.
Yes. and hold your policymakers accountable. Don't just vote and walk away, because when we go to work, there is such a thing as performance evaluation that comes around every year.
Absolutely.
And we need to make sure we are doing our job so we can keep our jobs, right?
Yep.
So don't just vote and walk away. Make sure you write, phone, go to the town hall meetings, do what you need to do. And if they don't correct their actions, vote them out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It means that we just need to be able to put somebody there who is going to do what they need to do, so we can move forward.
Exactly. That's it.
Yes.
And then maybe things will change for us, because they've taken us for granted for a long time.
Of course.
Pretty much thinking, oh, we're just going to vote. Don't worry, we'll show up at a church, church on Sunday, and they'll all come out to vote. And then we don't see them again until 4 years later. They come back to service again, and then we show up and vote. No. We're going to hold you accountable. That's it.
And we need them to do more in our communities.
Yes.
You represent us. We need our communities to be better. We need projects. We need home improvement. We need community development. We need more jobs. We need education. I mean, the list goes on, and we have to really continue to push that.
Oh, most definitely. We don't want to live in communities where there are 300 liquor stores. We want to live in communities with parks and libraries and museums. I mean, you need a license to get open a liquor store, right? So why is it that Black communities are inundated with liquor stores and no museums or libraries?
And,
What is
and the Black folks aren't even the owners of those liquor stores.
Exactly.
Might work there, but they don't own it. So you have to start
Exactly.
thinking about that.
Exactly. So those are the, issues we want to make sure you're right there at, your city council meetings, and you're showing up to the town halls, because if another liquor store is coming, you need to tell them we have enough.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you need to demand accountability from these folks who are putting things in your community. You need to say, well, if you're putting this in our community, how is our community benefiting from that? What
That's right.
resources, what funds are going to come back to our community? You said beautify our streets. Everybody else have palm trees lining their entryway to their towns. We need palm trees too.
That's correct. We want to know how many jobs are you bringing to this community. We also want to know about the environmental impact it's going to have on our community. Yes,
Facts.
we want everything we need to know before we agree.
And that's it. So right now we're at the midway point, guys, of our show, and this is where we take a break to bring you up to speed. We're talking to Cordella Lyon from Texas, and she's a nurse, and she's amazing. She's an amazing public health advocate and practitioner. And so we're talking to her about HIV in the Black community. And we're going to jump back into that in a few seconds. But I wanted to pause here to really tell you that HIV stands for human immunodeficiency virus. HIV is transmitted through sexual contact, sharing needles, or from mother to child through breast milk. And of course, if you're not using condoms for sex, then you not only run the risk of getting HIV, but you run the risk of getting STDs and STIs. And STDs are sexually transmitted diseases. Those are the ones we can treat, but we can't, but they don't go away. And then STIs are sexually transmitted infections. Those are the ones we treat and they go away, like chlamydia and gonorrhea. So we want to make sure that you are getting tested at least once a year. Or if you're having multiple partners, every time you change a partner, you should go get tested. I think getting an HIV test is a very cute first date. So um, I will put up a number on the screen that if you want to get your free HIV test, you can call us and we will get you squared away with your free HIV test. And also know that HIV is not transmitted through tears, through hugs, through sharing the same toilet, drinking from the same cup, eating from the same utensils. You're not going to get HIV that way. You will not get HIV that way. You will get HIV from unprotected sexual contact or sharing needles or from mother to child. And so the only way to know if you have HIV is to get an HIV test. HIV test is free in just about every state that you can think of. And if you have any questions about where you can go to get an HIV test, you can go inside your Google and put in free HIV test, and I'm sure a whole bunch of places will pop up. But if you still can't find some place, call us and we will help you to find a place closest to your location where you can get an HIV test. And a little plug for Campbell Health Solutions. We do have condoms by mail. So if you're interested in receiving condoms and you don't want to come by and pick them up, you can just fill out the form on our website at campbellhealth.org and we will ship them out to you. And also, we have at home HIV test kits, and we will be also able to provide you with those as well. So, if you have questions about HIV or STDs or PrEP, or if you need treatment, or if you want to get tested, give us a call. And I know Cardella mentioned PrEP earlier in the conversation. PrEP, PrEP, stands for pre exposure prophylaxis. Sometimes unofficially, we refer to it as the birth control for HIV. It is a pill you take every day to prevent HIV. Use in conjunction with condoms and other sexual health practices. And so if the condom breaks, you're already taking the medication and it helps to prevent you that way. So if you want to learn more about if PrEP is an option for you, feel free to reach out and we'll connect you wherever you are. We'll connect you to a place closest to you. All right. Thank you, Cordella. That's our education moment. We always throw that in right in the middle because I think sometimes people may say, "What is HIV again?" What is AIDS? Um, and so, people can live and people are living with HIV 20, 30, 40, 50, a very long time as long as you take your medication, you eat right, you exercise, you live as stress free as possible because this world is stressful as hell. You know, all of that. And I was watching this show on Apple TV. I was watching this show on Apple TV. It's called Swagger, and it's about a basketball player, and I think I binge watched like 10 episodes and this is a whole series. And it's about a basketball player. He's 14, but he's like 6'2". He's like they're just big for their age. And there's a scene right around like episode 6 or 7 where the cops he went to take the trash out and the cop was like, hands up, put your hands on, and he's like, I'm just taking out the trash. And it was like, and they mistook him for somebody else.
Mm.
His mom came out, advocated for him, and then they went back inside and all of that. And one cop was white, one cop was black, and so they did all of that. And then later on, there's another scene where his whole basketball team was told to stand up with their hands on the table, and basically they were told that they had to leave the restaurant because they got calls that
Mm.
there was a disturbance. And even though some people were advocating in the back, they still left. And just the trauma of all of that and them playing their games and going through all of those traumas and just think, they're processing it from different angles. And it's like, we should have stayed and eat. We have a right to be there and all of this stuff. They didn't have the right to tell us to leave. And the list goes on and on. And so it's just how they worked through all of that. And it coincided with the the shootings of some of the folks during the Black Lives Matter, all of that. And so it was so emotional and it created so much weight that I was sitting there like sobbing, literally, like, oh my God, because I have a 14-year-old.
Yes.
I'm like, every evening I'm telling him, go take the trash out. And I'm thinking, like, oh my God, what if he walks out to the trash and
Yeah.
something like this happens?
Yeah.
Because I've been standing in my own parking lot in my home, in my housing community where I own a home with my
Mhm.
partner.
Mhm.
And another member of the community came out and saw me standing outside, not knowing why I was standing there, whatever. I didn't have my keys. My partner wasn't home, so I had to wait. So I was standing outside
Mhm.
and I'm on the phone. And then they call the cops.
Wow.
So the cops showed up and they backed up into the parking spot and they just stood there the whole time, like watching, watching, watching. And I'm not leaving. So they're like, this guy isn't leaving. So obviously
Mm.
he lives here or he has a right to be here.
Mm.
And it was right around all of that stuff happening. So they just didn't really get out the car and did anything. They just kind of like drove right by slowly and just went on their way. But something as simple as that, right? Because the nosy neighbor just refused to kind of just mind their business. And
Mm.
so it's just really, really crazy. So simple things like just being in a space does it provokes people without you even provoking them. So people, or I said all of that to say is that people have to deal, our community, not people, Black folks have to deal with racism and injustice and healthcare injustice and have to deal with, you know, low incomes and have to deal with all these different disparities in our communities on top of HIV. So, what are how is social other social determinants of health, or says how are social determinants of health impacting? How do you see it impacting the Black community? Um, whether it's like specific to HIV or just around health in general.
I mean, that is huge, because we look at traditionally look at social determinants of health as you think about food insecurity, right? Without adequate nutrition, I mean, clean drinking water. We talked about Flint, and there was another southern state that had an issue with clean drinking water later, right? Michigan
Yeah.
was Flint was lead, right? And just thinking that that's a human right, just me having clean drinking water for hydration, for meals, for to take your medications, right? Right. And so with that lack of nutrition, with not having food security, there are many Black communities that are food deserts. I
Yeah.
mean, just imagine. um there is some income coming in, but the corner store is where the groceries are bought, and there are no fresh fruits and vegetables. Many of the things are processed, so there is high sodium content or high sugar content. So it does affect the health, overall health of people who are living in those communities. Then we talk about the housing instability or unsecure housing. Um, and it's gotten worse since COVID because many people lost their homes because they weren't able to work.
Mhm.
Uh, Poverty rates have gone up, I think, by probably 11% since COVID. So
Yeah.
many more people are on the streets. I mean, without having a safe place to lay your head, right? Just imagine the healthcare and the healthcare issues that occur. How do you keep your medication safe, and where do you find clean water to take your pills? If you're diabetic and the wonderful doctor and the doctor gave you a prescription for your insulin and you got it from the pharmacist, it needs to be refrigerated. So where do you store that insulin if you're diabetic, right? Somebody probably knows you have needles to take your insulin, so they steal your needles because they have a drug habit, right? So,
Or people end up sharing needles
or,
and
or
then miss out.
exactly, or that. And so those issues then with homelessness, there comes where some people are trading housing for sex.
Mm.
So they need a safe place to stay, but then they now no longer have that power to negotiate condom use, right?
Yep.
So there goes, when we talk about HIV and STIs, or people who are being trafficked because of lack of housing. And then we also talk about lack of transportation. There
Yeah.
are many people who live in communities where healthcare is so far away from them and they do not have a car. It takes them hour and a half by bus to get there. And, you know, then they have to wait an hour in the doctor's office, but they have to pick up the kid from school. So they're going to miss the appointment because it takes so long to get to healthcare. You know, the other things that we don't talk about is the overcriminalization of Blacks.
Hmm.
Just understanding that somebody who, we have so many Blacks who have been incarcerated, but the issue is after release, it's hard to get a job, it's hard to get housing, it's hard to get, if you don't have a job, how do you get insurance, right? Many
Hmm.
of us are either uninsured or uninsured. So how do you access health care? And for many people living in the South, some of these states did not expand Medicaid.
Facts.
So
Florida being one of them.
Right. So that means that if you're not elderly, then you have less chance of getting that, being able to afford healthcare, right? The
Right.
access to healthcare, and this is the thing that bothers me, is that a lot of people, a lot of FQHCs, a lot of people who get government funding, their facilities are located far away from where people live. And it's always, well, we have it, but they won't come and get it. Well, availability and access are two different things. And if you were open 9 to 5, when I'm at work and I can't get to you on time for my appointment, how about alternate hours? The bank does it. The bank's open late some weekdays and they're open on Saturdays, right? So, these things and how people access care, they're the thing that, we sometimes forget or do not talk about a lot, is the impact of disasters. We live in the South where we are ravaged by disasters. I mean, just by our location,
Yeah.
right? The mental health trauma of having to rebuild every time the wind blows. I mean, just think about the financial costs, the mental health issues that go along with that, the housing instability, because now you have to, live with somebody else until you can rebuild, or your house isn't safe for you to live in, but what do you do, right? So those issues, many people can't afford mitigation, but for some, it has been, traditionally, we don't think about insurance that way because we think I can't afford $20 a week without on for insurance, but then that means we can't afford $20,000 to fix the repair, right? Because we don't think about mitigation that way. Which, well, if it happens, then we'll figure it out because this $20 a week is going to hurt my food bill.
Right.
So a lot of those things occur, particularly in Black communities and for people living in the South, because we get so much damage from disasters. We have, the issues, these real social determinants of health that, as we talked about voting before, we have to look at them. There are so many layers that we have to get through before we get. It occurs before HIV happens.
Right.
Homeless, being, living on the streets, not having enough to eat, not having insurance to access care, and being disregarded when you enter healthcare.
Yeah.
For many of us, providers don't look us in the eye. They assume that, they can just brush us off, because they don't, pay attention, and people just stay away from, they just stay out of care.
Yeah. And they don't take your concerns seriously in most cases. And you have to advocate for yourself. But how are you advocating for yourself if you don't even know?
Exactly.
And there are supposed to be resources in place to aid in these processes, and not everyone have these resources. So what ends up happening is that people fall through the hole all the time. And it was like, okay, I was doing some outreach last week, and I was talking to this gentleman who said that he went to his doctor, and while he was at his doctor, he had thought about getting on PrEP. He's an MSM, or he identifies as a gay man. And so I said, "So what happened?" He said, "Oh well, he didn't get it." And I was like, "What do you mean you didn't get it? That doesn't make any sense." And not like I was trying to argue with him over the fact
Right.
that it didn't make any sense, but
Yeah,
I was just like,
yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense.
exactly.
And then I said, "Can you explain to me what happened?" And he said he asked his doctor for PrEP. Doctor said, yes, you can get it. And the doctor connected him with, like, I think it was like a phone number or a website or something, and said, this is where you go to apply for it. And when he started applying for it, he was like, I just didn't understand. What am I going to put? What's happening? So he didn't do anything any further. And so he didn't get PrEP. And just something simple like that. And I was like, no one sat with you and kind of like say, okay, these are the paperwork. let me open up the portal and put your information in. Like no one did that. Like I was just so like, wow.
Blows your mind. And then we'll have someone suddenly say, that person is hard to reach.
Right.
No, he was in your office. He asked for prep. He's not difficult to reach. He was there,
Yeah.
you know,
Happens
and
all the time.
it happens all the time, and we're seeing it with the the increased rates of Black women who are dying during childbirth, because our needs have been ignored by providers.
Yes.
Uh, yeah.
And your pain levels are being ignored. And it's so ironic, and it's really scary to even think that I don't know the exact number of years, but many years ago, when they were creating the what are those things that they use to do the pap smears, the clamps, um I forget what they call the yeah. So the clamps that they use to open the vagina so they can do the swabs and all of that. I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but when they were creating that, they literally um, tested out or used Black women as like their study, like for this portion of the research, and so like Black women had to endure excruciating pain,
Mm.
and they were metal before. Now they have the nice plastic kind.
Right, right.
Endure like metal objects being placed inside their vagina, and in many cases, rip them apart and rip them open. And a lot of them did not get any medication, or if they got medication, it
Mm.
wasn't enough. And they had to endure this day after day after day until someone created a tool that now is widely used in the medical profession. And so when you think about it and saying, wow, if this was another race of people that were this was being done to, there would be such an outcry.
Yes.
There would be policies and laws and all this stuff, but it happened to our people and it was like nothing.
Like nothing. Like
And
nothing.
so we have to really think about that, and you know, Black folks, as part of the Black community, myself, we carry a lot of trauma and with us from our past, from our heritage, because we can't deny that these things have happened to our people. It's part of our history, and we can't deny our history because some people are uncomfortable. So we have to really come together as a community and say, hey, listen, we need quality health care in our communities. We're not going to travel 40 miles just to go see a doctor. We need these things in our community. And for our Black folks out there who are becoming doctors in all levels and forms, to really consider putting their practices in communities that are underserved
Yes.
back into our community.
Yes. And that will help to rebuild trust, because of those experiments that took place,
Mhm.
medical experiments, that took place. We also have a distrust of healthcare, right?
Absolutely.
A reasonable distrust of
Right.
healthcare. But having our providers come back into the community can help build that trust again, so that it can help us to get better and be healthy. So you're right. I do applaud you for asking. Yeah, please come back. We need you. We need you as providers and role models.
Yes. And as we address the mistrust that we've had for providers who don't look like us, who
Yes.
are coming into our community, please educate yourself about our communities before you come and set up your shop. And also, please make time to engage our community outside of medical services. It can't just be, oh, you need a doctor, so now I'm here, give me your money, come see me. Engage with the community. after hours, on the weekends, at different community events and activities. That's how you continue to build trust within communities, and not just ours, but across all communities. But that's how you build trust. But if you really want to work within Black communities, you need to be able to build those trusts. You need to be able to address the issue, call a spade, and recognize that you are, you might not necessarily be part of our race, but at the same token, you bring a valuable contribution. And if you need to have a soiree and invite some people to come out and talk about what you're bringing to the community and why and how everyone can partake, that's not a bad idea.
No, practice cultural humility.
Absolutely.
Practice. We don't want you to tell us you're culturally sensitive after taking a 1 hour class. We want you
So
to practice.
it's ongoing.
Yes, it's ongoing. And we don't expect you to know everything because we don't either.
Right.
It's just that we will be humble enough to say, teach me, explain this to me, let me understand how this works. And that is okay. That is okay. We don't expect you to know everything, but be humble in going about it.
Okay. Awesome. One last question before we go. How do we motivate our people to go get tested? To jump in to really take advantage of prevention education, prevention efforts to starve off some of these illnesses, HIV, diabetes, all of that. How do we motivate folks to grasp this prevention messages and engage?
We lead by example. If we tell somebody to get tested, make sure you've gotten tested, right?
Facts.
Yes. So we can't lead from behind. We must lead by example. We make sure we get tested. We make sure that just practicing what we preach. If we tell you it's going to be okay to get tested, you're afraid to go, I'll go with you, right? You need to get into care, I'll give you a ride. It doesn't make sense to just preach, words without actions, or faith without works is dead, right? So we must do that. We must also make sure that we're arming ourselves with the right information. If you don't know it, it's okay. But say, I'll find somebody who does. We don't expect you to know everything, but just make sure, reach out to somebody who does. And as you said, anybody could Google where to go for testing. I use this wonderful tool. It's healthysexual.com.
My I had my silencer on.
Timer. I use healthysexual.com, and you log on there, you see a lot of HIV information and where to get tested. And of course, there are organizations like yours. I mean, Campbell Health Solutions, go to your public health department, but make sure that if you don't have the information, you just reach out to those who do it. And whatever you're asking somebody to do, make sure you've done it or you're willing to walk the journey with them.
And it's really easy, guys. Getting an HIV test is super, super easy. You come in, it literally takes about 20 minutes. You get a finger stick, they touch the tube to your blood, set it in the solution, and that's it. There's nothing else. You don't have to give 2, 3 vials of blood and all this other stuff. It's literally a finger stick, like checking diabetes, right? It's literally boom, and that's it. So it's not difficult. It's not challenging. So if you have any doubts about that, it's literally a finger stick and you're done.
Yep. I test for my birthday every year and I'm afraid of needles, but that's always my birthday present to me. And that's the time I know I'll remember.
Right.
My test. It's my birthday. I'll remember, because life gets busy, but yeah, it's, you're right. 20 minutes. The hardest part is the paperwork.
Yeah. And our paperwork is very simple.
There
we,
you go.
we would fill it out with you. It's like a couple of questions. You're in and out, like literally. So while the test is being processed, we'll complete the paperwork with you, and by 20 minutes, you're out the door. So we'll even do the writing. So you don't even have to write anything. We'll write for you.
There it is. There it is. Yeah.
And if your results come back negative, we'll tell you, or non reactive, we'll tell you, like, here's some condoms, here's what you need to do to continue to stay negative. If your results come back reactive or positive, we'll tell you, here's some condoms, here's what you need to do to continue to stay healthier longer, and how not to pass the disease, how not to pass HIV on to anyone else, and also how you can live healthier longer, right? Because we all want to live, we want to see our kids and our grandkids and all that good stuff. Maybe you want to go and see the world, whatever it is. So you have this opportunity. And if you are a person living with HIV and you are out of care, meaning that you have not seen the doctor in, what is it, um, in a while, like in more than a month,
6 months.
or more than 3 months or
Mhm.
6 months,
Mhm.
reach out to us and we will definitely get you connected to a provider. We want to make sure that you are in care. We want to make sure that you can live your best life and you have the best chance of doing so. All right. We really love you and appreciate you, and we really want you to be here. So reach out. Our numbers are on the screen. You can go to our website, and we will definitely get you connected. I've done plenty of these linkage from folks from here to California, from California to New York, wherever. So if we got a call together, I got you. We'll find
That's
somebody, someplace, somewhere.
that's good. And please remember, PrEP is for women too. PrEP is
Absolutely.
not just for men. PrEP is for women, and there's an injectable that it's new to the market. So there are options for PrEP. There's so many things in our toolkit that we can use to prevent HIV. So please reach out to your provider, or to spaces like Campbell Health Solutions, where they can help connect you with that which is right for you.
And I'm glad you brought that up because women seem to sometimes be left out.
Yes.
We make special arrangements here at Campbell Health Solutions if someone wants to come in and get tested on Saturdays.
Mm.
If someone wants to come in on a Sunday, we will make special arrangement for you to come and get tested. If someone wants to come in after 5, well, we're here until like 6. But if someone wants to come in after that and you call and say, hey, listen, I want an HIV test, but I leave work at 6, we will stay here until you get here.
Mhm.
So, you know, we are flexible that way because we want you to know. So this way you can take care of yourself and your family. And right now, I think it's what, 1 in 49 Black women will get HIV in their lifetime versus 1 in 880. That's a white woman, right?
Right.
A white woman counterpart is 1 in 880,
Mhm.
and for Black women, it's 1 in 49, something like that. So I want you guys to really think about that. That is crazy.
Those are our mothers, the nurturers of our community, the ones who we're going to, rely on to hold down the home. And of course, what will happen to our children if they don't have their moms?
Yeah. So step up your game. Know your status. The next time you go to the doctor to get a GYN, your OB appointment, ask your doctor for an HIV test. And if you are living with HIV and your doctor feels like they can't answer your questions or provide the resources that you need, say thank you for the service and start looking for something else, someplace else where you can ask your questions and get answers. If you can't get answers to your question, that's the clear indicator that you need to find another provider. And we know it might be difficult and challenging, but we can help you with that. So absolutely, we're here to help. And I want to thank Cordella for being on tonight. Um, really appreciate you being on. You're just a wealth of information.
Thank
And
you.
And guys, we are going to be sharing a lot of the bios and stuff inside of the promo videos that you see online. So they will be up there so you can get additional information about all of the speakers. So absolutely, if folks want to reach you, how can they reach you?
Okay, my cell phone number is 732-501-4472. I answer my cell phone all the time. And or you email at cordylyon@gmail.com.
All right, there
Yes,
you have it, guys. So there isn't any reason now why you shouldn't be connected.
that's right. Thank you. It was wonderful to share your space. I loved your audience. And let's go forward and change history. Let us just make sure, make sure we're the victors when it ends. Get tested
Absolutely.
and get
Yeah,
into care.
absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you so much. And looking forward to talking to you some more in the future and working with you some more in the future. It's really awesome. Guys,
Great.
if you have questions, comments, whatever, put it in the comment section. Even if you're watching this like a week after, we will make sure that we respond to your questions. And all the information is there. You have all the numbers to call and all of that. So we really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And good night.
Good night.